It is late. Rome has grown quiet. The great city, always roaring, always pressing, always demanding, has finally stilled itself for the night. The vendors have packed their stalls. The senators have returned to their homes. The crowds that filled the forum this morning have dissolved into the streets, into doorways, into sleep. And here, in a room lit by a single oil lamp, a man sits alone. His name is Marcus. He is emperor of the known world. He commands legions that stretch from Britain to Syria, from the Rhine to the Sahara. Tomorrow he will arbitrate disputes, receive ambassadors, sign edicts that will shape the lives of millions. But tonight, in this small circle of amber light, he is just a man with a wax tablet on his knee, bronze stylus in his hand, and a mind that will not stop turning. He writes, not for anyone else, not to be remembered. He has written at the top of the page to himself, and he means it. These are not proclamations. They are not philosophy lessons. They are a man talking himself through the dark. We are going to sit with him tonight. We are going to follow his thoughts as they move through the great Stoic questions. Questions that are just as alive now as they were in that lamplit room 2000 years ago. How do we face difficulty? How do we hold what we love without clutching it too tightly? How do we remain steady when everything around us shifts? There's no hurry. The night is long. Let your body settle. Let your breathing slow. We have time. Marcus picks up his stylus and writes the first words slowly, as though tasting them. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He sets the stylus down. This is not morbid. He has practiced this thought for 20 years and it has never once made him despair. If anything, it does the opposite. It clears the air. It removes the clutter. It asks the only question that matters. If not now, when? The Stoics had a name for this practice: Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. Marcus has watched men avoid this thought their whole lives. He has seen them fill every silence with noise, every stillness with movement, every empty evening with distraction. He understands why. The thought, if you approach it wrong, can seem like an abyss, but approach gently, the way you might approach a deep lake at dusk, it becomes something else entirely. He thinks of a senator he knew in his youth, a brilliant man, quick, certain, always moving, always sure that the important thing was just ahead, the next appointment, the next achievement, the next season. That man is dead now, and Marcus remembers wondering, near the end, whether the senator had ever once stopped and asked himself, is this the life I meant to live? Memento Mori is not an instruction to fear death. It is an instruction to see now more clearly. The lamp flame bends in a small draught from under the door. Marcus watches it. It straightens, it bends again. He thinks of everyone who has sat beneath a flame like this one. The Egyptians, for whom death was a great ceremony. a passage, a transformation. The Greeks, for whom it was a descent into something shadowy and still, his own Stoic teachers, for whom it was simply a return, the atoms dispersing back into the whole. Loss is nothing else but change, he has written, and change is nature's delight. He does not write it tonight. He has written it before, many times. Tonight he simply feels it. Somewhere in the city a dog barks twice, then silence. You do not need to think about death tonight. This is not why we are here. But you might let Memento Mori do its quieter work, the work of loosening, of softening your grip on tomorrow's worries, of reminding you that right now, in this moment, breathing steadily, you are here. That is enough. Marcus turns the tablet over to a fresh surface and writes again. Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. He did not write that himself. That is Epictetus, his teacher, or rather the teacher he never met in person, whose words were written down by a student and found their way into Marcus's hands when he was young man still learning to think. Epictetus had been a slave. He had owned nothing, controlled nothing, could be beaten or sold at another man's whim. And from that position, from that absolute lack of external power, he had built a philosophy of extraordinary freedom. Marcus thinks about that often. He, Marcus, controls an empire. Epictetus controlled nothing but his own mind. And yet, Epictetus was the freer man. This is the paradox at the heart of Stoicism, and Marcus had been turning it over for decades without exhausting it. Amor Fati, love of fate, not resignation to fate, not the slumped acceptance of someone who has given up, but someone more active, more alive, a genuine embrace of what is. The Stoics were precise about what any man could and could not control. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the actions of others. You cannot control illness or loss or the timing of things. These fall outside the circle of your will. Inside the circle, your attention, your response, your interpretation, your values, the quality of your effort. Marcus sets the stylus down again and leans back. The chair creaks. He thinks of this afternoon's difficult meeting. A general who had spoken to him with barely concealed contempt. A grain supply problem that had no clean solution. A letter from the northern frontier describing conditions that made his chest tighten. All of it outside the circle. All of it facts. Not good or bad in themselves, just what is. He had learned this slowly. It had not come naturally. In his 20s, he had raged at circumstances that the way any young man does, had felt the injustice of a world that did not match his wishes, had believed, the way clever young people often do, that the universe owed him the shape he preferred. Epictetus had dismantled that belief slowly, gently, piece by piece. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Marcus had copied that line out 30 years ago and had never forgotten it. In the street outside, footsteps pass. A night watchman, probably. The young and the sound fades. Amor Fati is not the same as saying nothing matters. Marcus loves his children with a ferocity that sometimes frightens him. He cares deeply about the empire, about justice, about doing his work well. These things matter, but he tries to hold them with open hands. There's a particular kind of peace that comes from this. Not the peace of having everything you want, the peace of being genuinely, deeply willing to accept what comes. It is a different quality of stillness, quieter, less anxious. You might feel something like it right now if you let yourself. Whatever today was, whatever it held, it is now part of the fixed past. It happened, and here you are, breathing in the dark, still whole. That is not nothing. The lamp is burning lower now. Marcus trims the wick with his finger and thumb, not bothering to find the small tool made for the purpose. The flame steadies and brightens. He has a practice he returns to when the weight of things becomes too much. He imagines rising, not into the sky exactly, not like the old myths, but a widening of perspective, a pulling back. He imagines himself in this room, in this city, in this empire, in this world, and then further, the world as a small sphere hanging in something vast and dark and indifferent. The centuries stacked behind and ahead like rooms he will never enter. How many Caesars, how many consuls he had written, and how many Alexanders. From far enough away, the urgent becomes small, not meaningless, never meaningless. That is not the lesson, but sized correctly. The things we break ourselves against, the things we cannot stop thinking about in the dark, in the night, often look very different from a distance. His teacher Fronto had a name for it, the view from above. Later thinkers would call it the overview effect. The astronauts of a distant future, looking back at Earth from space, would report the same thing Marcus described, a sudden, overwhelming sense of proportion, of belonging to something vast. Marcus rises just briefly in his imagination. He sees the lamp from above, the room, the palace, the seven hills of Rome, the thread of Tiber, and further, the whole Mediterranean basin, the trade routes, the legions, the grain ships, all of it from this height, looking like something a child might draw. And further still, he comes back slowly. The room reassembles itself around him. The lamp, the tablet, his own hands. He feels lighter. This is available to you too, not as an escape from your life, but as a way of returning it to it with better eyes. You can rise above the thing that is troubling you tonight. See it from a distance, watch it grow small, and then come back. The problem will still be there. The difficulty will not have dissolved, but you will have changed very slightly. Your relationship to it will be different. The night is very quiet now. Even Rome is almost fully asleep. Marcus is tired. He can feel the tiredness in his shoulders, in the slight heaviness behind his eyes, but he is not ready to sleep yet. There's more practice he wants to move through before the lamp goes out entirely. The Stoics call it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds foreboding. It is not. The practice is simple. You imagine very gently the loss of something you love, not to dwell in grief, not to rehearse catastrophe, but to wake up the gratitude that familiarity has put to sleep. Marcus thinks of his son Commodus, asleep somewhere in this palace, 8 years old, restless in his sleep, the nurses say, always kicking off the blankets. Marcus imagines, briefly, gently, what life would be without him, the particular silence that would live in this palace, the absence of a small voice, a small footstep, a small hand in his. He sits with the imagined loss for just a moment, then he lets it go. And what remains in the space where the imagining was is something warm, something that feels like seeing clearly for the first time in a long while. His son is asleep 20 rooms away. That is extraordinary. That is a gift he had stopped noticing. The Stoics were accused of sometimes of coldness, of detachment. Marcus thinks this misses the point entirely. The Stoic practice of imagining loss is not about becoming detached from love. It is about loving better, more alertly, with less of the half attention we give to things we are sure we will always be there. He thinks of his wife, of the friends he has lost over the years, of the teachers who shaped him, most of them gone now. Junius Rusticus, who first pressed the works of Epictetus into his hands, Apollonius of Chalcedon, who had shown him what equanimity actually looked like in a human body, in a human face. From Apollonius, I learned freedom of will and undeviating steadiness of purpose. He had written that down too, years ago, in the first pages of the book he was still writing tonight. The things you love are temporary, all of them. This is not a dark thought once you have sat with it long enough. It becomes, strangely, a kind of light. Everything you love more fiercely when you know its edges, when you remember that it is finite, that it was given, not owed. Think, if you like, of something you love, something ordinary, the warmth of a bed, a person's voice, the smell of a particular place, the way light falls in a room you know well. Hold it gently in your mind. Imagine just for a moment its absence. Now let that imagining go. What is left? The lamp is very low now. Marcus has set the tablet aside. He is no longer writing. He is simply sitting, breathing, present in the room in a way that he is not always present during the day, when things are just too many things pressing at him from every direction. Confine yourself to the present, he has written. This is the last of the Stoic practices he wants to move through tonight. In some ways, it is the simplest. In some ways, it is the hardest. The mind does not like the present. Left to its own devices, it migrates constantly, backwards into the memory and regret, forwards into planning and worry. It is very good at this migration. It can be in yesterday and tomorrow simultaneously, while the actual present moment, the room and the breathing, the lamp passes by unnoticed. Marcus had noticed this about himself early. His mind was fast and restless, a good quality for an emperor, a difficult one for a philosopher. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He had written that line during a campaign, standing in a tent somewhere on the Danube. the river dark and cold outside, the barbarian tribes massing on the other bank. The situation was real, the danger was real, and still the Stoic instruction held. You have power over your mind, not over the river, not over the tribes, not over the cold, only over the quality of his attention. The present moment is always available. This is its peculiar quality. However far the mind has wandered into memory, into anticipation, into the noise of the day, the present is still there when you return to it, patient, unchanged. The breath, the body, the darkness of a room at night. Marcus breathes in slowly through his nose and breathes out. There's nothing to solve right now. There's no decision to make, no letter to write, no one to speak to. There's only this room, this breath, this small warmth. The Stoics believed that the present moment was the only place where human could being could actually live. The past is unchangeable. The future is unknowable. There's only here, now, this inhale, this exhale. They were not the only ones who noticed this. The Buddhist monks in the Far East said the same thing in different words. The Desert Fathers, the mystics of every tradition, it seems, came eventually to the same discovery. The present moment is home. Marcus sits for a long time without moving. Rome breathes around him. He can feel it, the strange collective breath of a million people, sleeping, dreaming, digesting the day. He thinks of all the people who had sat with these questions before him. Zeno of Citrum, who had found the Stoic school after losing everything in a shipwreck, and had found his way to philosophy not in spite of that loss but through it. Chrysippus, who had turned Stoicism into a rigorous system. Epictetus, the freed slave, who had reduced it all down to its essential core. And he thinks of all the people who had not yet been born. Centuries from now, people will sit in rooms lit by different kinds of light, with different kinds of worries, turning the same questions over in their minds. The questions do not change, they never have. How do I face what is difficult? How do I love? How do I hold what I love without losing myself when it changes? How do I remain steady? Marcus picks up the wax tablet one final time and writes a single line. He has written several versions of it before, but tonight it feels different, simpler, more arrived at. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He sets the tablet down. He looks at the lamp. The oil is almost gone. The flame is very small now, a pale, thin thing barely holding on against the darkness. He does not reach for more oil. He watches the flame for a long time. It bends once, twice. It holds. You have been sitting with Marcus tonight in that lamplit room. You have moved with him through the five of the great Stoic practices, the gentle reminder of mortality, the embrace of what is, the widening of perspective, the gratitude born from imagining loss, the return to this present moment. None of these are instructions. None of them require anything of you right now. They are simply shapes of thinking, ways of holding the dark. The Stoics were not trying to make life painless. They knew it could not be made painless. They were trying to build the kind of interior steadiness that could hold pain without being destroyed by it. They could that could move through difficulty without losing its center. Marcus Aurelius would rule for 19 more years. He would face plagues, wars, and the betrayal of trusted generals, the deaths of children. He would write in private about his own failures, his own lapses, his own distances from the philosophy he tried to live. He was not a perfect Stoic. He knew that. He wrote it down. But he kept returning to the questions. He kept sitting down in the quiet with the lamp and the tablet and the stylus. He kept trying. That maybe is all the philosophy really asks. The flame goes out. The room is dark. Somewhere outside, Rome breathes on. You are here. You are breathing. That is enough. Rest now.